Super Mario 64 is the most speedran console game of all time. I wanted to see why it's so popular and how good a complete beginner could get at speedrunning the most beloved category, 16 star, in 10 hours. Here's how it went. I decided that I'd use the first hour for really studying and researching the run. I watched a video guide by Drogi because I really only roughly knew the stars and the glitches from watching speedrunners like Clint Stevens and Squeaks. I laid out a game plan for which stages and stars I needed to hit, and I thought about which glitches I was planning on using during the 10 hours. Skips like Mips Clip and BLJs are unavoidable, but the others like Lakitu Skip, Bomb Clip, and Owlus were much less important since they don't save that much time. I only spent about 30 minutes studying, so I thought that I'd just jump into a run and see how it went. I mean, how bad can it be? Pretty bad. It could go pretty bad. I thought that I could finish a run in maybe 50, 40 minutes, but I severely underestimate how bad I actually am at the game. I ended up finishing with a time of 1 hour, 31 minutes, and 3 seconds, and a grand total of 39 deaths. You have Shifting Sandland to thank for that, as I spent 27 minutes in there, only to not get any of the stars I was going for and substituting with easier stars. I think it's time that I told you that I've never actually beaten Mario 64 before this run. Because of that, I was never really good at the controls, and it really showed in this run. By my 5th star, I had already gone over the world record time of 14:35. If I were to submit this run, I'd be the 6th lowest runner in the world, at place 1,866. Going into the 3rd hour, I knew that it was mandatory to practice. I was actually feeling really drained and tired from my first run that I decided to watch some videos of some other people playing it when I came across Coney's original first run that he ever did. I noticed he was actually using a different route than I was, and even with watching the video during his run, his time was 30 minutes faster than mine. I quickly looked for the guide and found More Jam's tutorial for a sub 20 minute. It sounded way easier than the plan I was using before, which lost so much time in Shifting Sandland that I decided to just redraw my entire plan. My new plan took out Cannonless, replacing it with a slide in Cool Cool Mountain, and took out the godforsaken Klepto Star instead for Boyle the Big Bully. I decided to focus a lot less on skips and focus more on the general movement since that ate up a majority of the time during the runs. Watching More Jam's tutorial, I actually paid attention to how each star is supposed to be grabbed, movement-wise, rather than just freeballing and guessing. I spent over an hour practicing the new route, going through every star at least once, with some of them even getting multiple attempts. The recording for this practice session was actually only an hour and 15 minutes, which means that it was already below my PB, and I was really looking forward to my next run. I headed into hour 5 with a lot of optimism, and using what I learned in hours 3 and 4, I actually shockingly enough cut the time in half. My original 1:31:03 got turned into a 44:11, and this would have moved me up 27 places if I submitted it. I felt so proud of how much time I saved, and rather than feeling drained like I did in my first run, I felt excited to just keep running. There was still plenty that I could save time on during this run. I accidentally left from Shifting Sandlands, and my Bowser 3 was absolutely horrendous, with me falling 3 times. Since I've been playing on emulator, I actually was using an Xbox One controller up until this run where I switched to a GameCube controller. The switch made me mess up a few inputs like long jump, but overall I felt really good and comfortable and ready for the next run. Hour 6 went by pretty quickly since I really just wanted to get a new run in and fix some of the inconsistencies I've been having. Just about every split was a sizable improvement. Well, every split except for Lethal Lava Land. I was trying a new strat to get to the big bully quicker and constantly messed up, dying a total of 6 times here. My Bowser 3 was still pretty rough, and I knew that I would eventually have to work on it because things like throws and BLJs are unavoidable and I can't let them keep slowing me down so much. But the run ended with a 3-minute improvement at a 41:14, moving me up 11 ranks from 1839 to 1828. Hour 7 was pretty productive, but it was also kind of sad. The first run started off a little behind, but with the mistakes from the previous run, there was plenty of time to catch up later. My lethal lava land was way quicker with 0 deaths and all of the late game splits being better than ever before. My BLGs were very fast, only taking a few tries heading into Bowser 3. For the most part, Bowser 3 was good, but there was a few falls that caused some major time loss. The throws went pretty well, but it wasn't quite enough as I ended with a new PB of 30:36. On one hand, I was amazed at the improvement, moving from rank 1828 to 1746 and cutting 11 minutes off my PB. But on the other hand, it was so close to sub 30 that I was really upset at the small mistakes that helped the run back. But I knew that sub 30 was possible, and I headed into my next run with excitement. Excitement that kinda turned into despair. I'd been around a minute ahead of my 30:36 PB the entire run, and I knew that I could save time in Bowser 3 if I played it just a little safer. The problem would arise with Bowser 2. I didn't get full health from the heart, which caused me to panic a bit. In truth, I would have been fine had I just done what I usually do, as I still would have survived normally. But in the moment, I forgot this and I died. I died right near the end, which messed with my mental and made me play the worst Bowser 2 I've ever done. The minute ahead I had created turned into a minute and a half behind. My BLJs were very slow and had me heading into Bowser 3 already having passed my PB. I finished the run with a 36:33, mostly to get Bowser 3 and BLJ practice, but honestly, I wanted to quit and reset ever since that death in Bowser 2. I realized I needed to be much more consistent, and I decided that I'd make the 8th and the 9th hour solely for practice, while leaving the 10th hour only for runs. I wanted to make sure to practice the Bowser stages, because these stages caused a lot of problems during every single run of mine. So I started out practicing a safer and more consistent Bowser 1 for about 15 minutes. For every stage, I identified the problem areas that I usually fall off and determined a route that would lower the risk, even if it cost a bit of time, because a time loss is a lot less harmful than death or a fall. Throughout the entire session, I was mainly focused on consistency and safety. In Womps, I struggled a lot with this wall jump, and worked to make it a little easier to hit. Or with the owl, I would often miss, so I found exactly where I should be and began ground pounding instead of dropping. In Boil the Big Bully, I would often die or get knocked into lava, so I worked out exactly how I would get there to defeat the bully. Originally, this practice was only supposed to be an hour long, but by the hour mark, I had only just begun Bowser 2 and 3, which were huge problem areas of mine and I needed to work on. So I kept practicing and practicing until I felt comfortable with these two by again learning exactly where my pitfalls were and how to make them safer, since these stages really punish mistakes. After all the practice was done, I felt more confident than ever heading into the final hour. All of the practice had actually paid off. I was hitting golds and greens almost like it was expected. The entire run was leagues cleaner than any of the previous runs. There was quite a hiccup with Bowser 2, but not with the stage. Rather, the fight itself was riddled with death and long moments without getting the tail or missing the bombs. The run had a few minor mistakes, but overall it was good, ending with a 26:49. But it didn't end here, as the next run was even better. Everything was either gold or green. The last run was there just to put the practice into motion, and this final run put every single piece of practice and work from the last 10 hours into use. Womps, Cool Mountain, Bowser 1, Bowser 2, even the dreaded run ender of Bowser 3 were close to the best I had ever done. All the hard work had paid off, and it showed with the final time being a 25:52, which would place me as the 1608th player in the world. The journey's been incredible, and I'm really proud of how good I got at the game. Going from the sloppy and discouraging 131.03 by cutting down over an hour to get a respectable 25:52 was the best feeling. Every time I saw improvement in either my skill or just the time, I was encouraged to keep going and chasing lower and lower times. I have a newfound respect for Mario 64. I didn't think much of it before, but now I can see how amazing it truly is. It's kind of shocking how good the game is when you think about the fact that it came out in 1996. Everything from the music to the stages are amazing, and to be Nintendo's first 3D Mario game is really impressive. I kept thinking that I should just stop speedrunning the game and just play through it because I was having so much fun. I might even still continue to speedrun the game after this. In fact, what if I did? That's right, I played for another hour. Remember when I said the hour 8 and 9 were supposed to only be 1 hour? Well, originally I just planned to not tell you and leave the last 2 hours for running. I thought I could get a sub 25 minute and end the video on a high note, but this last hour was really scuffed. I started resetting runs for the first time, and I started to realize that I need to learn the proper routes if I wanted to get a sub 25 minute. I'd have to learn things like cannonless, owlless, and lakitu skip if I wanted to have any chance of getting below a sub 25. Still, I tried and ran into some walls, resetting and resetting, and honestly, I gained more respect for streamers because I hadn't run into a wall before this. I realized that you don't always PB, and it started to stress me out trying to beat that 25.52. After realizing that I wouldn't PB, I just started goofing off a bit. I started trying strats I didn't know how to do, and honestly, I was just cutting loose and having some fun. These 10 hours of speedrunning have been wonderful. It was incredibly fun, and honestly, I can recommend everyone give it a shot. Not only because it feels great to improve, but honestly, the game's just really fun. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please give me a like or a subscribe or a comment or anything. And I'll see you in the next one. Later.
Thank you so much for playing my game.
Thank you for watching.